Greetings, how is everybody today? As we get started, I wonder what thoughts cross your mind about the most memorable praise that you ever received. Maybe you were a youngster on a winning team. Do you remember how you felt? Can you still remember the words spoken? Were you one of those remarkable honor students who collected all the awards at the end of the school year? That was my sister. I didn't figure out till later I hated public praise, so I didn't worry about that stuff. Where were you standing when someone praised your accomplishments? Can you still see it? Maybe you knew where your parents were, maybe your grandparents, maybe your siblings. Now, how about your professional life? Have you experienced a time when servant leaders praised excellence, and you were inspired to take on another project or take a risk because of how they handled your previous accomplishment? What words did that servant leader use to convey the value of your contribution? Are you skillful as a leader in your use of praise at work? Maybe praise is difficult for you because you were rarely on the receiving end. And that's very common. I have to tell you that very honestly, that is very common. Some people really struggle with receiving praise because nobody's ever praised them. Or maybe praise is something you avoid giving out because you were once embarrassed by a teacher, a coach, or maybe a leader. Today I want to offer some guidelines to make praise easier, if not safer, to offer in our oversensitive culture. Listen for the importance of separating the person from the work. That's a key to leading, is making sure you're valuing the work verbally and the person non-verbally. As a leader, where do you fall on the praise spectrum? Now, on the one end of the praise spectrum, no praise is ever offered for any reason. On the other end, the leader praises everything. Thanks for coming to work. Now, I've read a lot about Walt Disney, and he favored the very rare praise. And if you have ever watched the movie Saving Mr. Banks, he actually comments very rarely, but when he does, those creative masters walk a little taller for another week. So we have to gauge what works and speak in the right way at the right time and not too often in order to be believed. So most leaders fall somewhere along the praise spectrum. And we really do vary our praise depending on people, situations, culture, and even the time of year. You'll notice it toward the end of year, we're getting close to reaching goals. We're looking at even the holidays, all of the kinds of things that are happening. As things start to close down, we kind of become a lot more aware of people's contributions. Now, we have to praise the work with specific outcomes and why the result helped the team, the business, or whatever. So leaders are really wise to avoid phrases about the person because of the assumptions that can be made. Positive statements about the work cannot be refuted. People cannot argue when you state something that everybody can see. And honestly, those kinds of statements will define the leader's expectations of other people. Now, consistency is very important when offering praise in a team setting. Know the facts about all of the recent team accomplishments because you don't want to praise one and leave out three others. Sincerity is obvious when we take the time to gather specific examples and we can provide reasons that the work was superior. And we have to do that because we have to show them we know what we're talking about. So we need to avoid all mention of anything that's not gone well this week, because what happens is they hear the negative, especially if you put it on the end, and the praise is completely lost, and you can't convince them you said it. It won't work. Another piece of it that we really want to avoid is comparison. Whether it's with other teams, other businesses, any of that kind of stuff, the praise is completely lost if we compare in any way. Now, here's one that, honestly, you might sit up and go, wait a minute, Wiley, what are you talking about? Do you believe that women and men are different in the need for praise and assurance? Now, your instant answer might be, yeah, women need more. I'm going to make an assertion right here. Gender has nothing to do with the need for input from our leaders. Absolutely nothing. Here's an example. I had a manager. She moved on to another team. We're still good friends. We went to lunch one day and she said, I have this guy on my team and he keeps coming back asking me, what about this? What about that? And I said, well, how much assurance have you given him? Have you praised him? Well, then she starts talking about her favorite, whose name was Dee. And we had talked about this lady before. She was tremendous. She really was. But she didn't need praise. Now, what's the difference between the two? The man is asking for praise. The woman doesn't want it. What's the difference? Confidence, experience. You know when you do things well. I don't need people to tell me when I do certain things well. In other places, I want some assurance. I want you to tell me I'm okay. So confidence is grown throughout the career with a record of success in various situations. If someone does not want or need praise, the leader's going to want to remember it. Remember that important fact about that person. Don't heap praise on people who don't want it. Those who need more praise can be built up in private to avoid peer pressure or too much unwanted attention. It really is important to know these things. There really are people who would rather not receive public praise. And in all honesty, I'm one of them. I'd rather have somebody come and say something all by myself in my office, my cube, give me a phone call, give me an email, but not in public. And that means all kinds of recognition for me. Now, other people, that's not true. So as a leader, we have to know what their preferences are and apply them accordingly. Now, certain statements will not be viewed as praise, even if you intend them that way. Most likely, these kinds of statements will actually work against your attempt to bring out the best in a situation. So focus on the work and not individual characteristics or skills. So statements about people honestly can descend into comparison and even shaming if we attempt to highlight anything about the person. The message we convey will include the outcome we're seeking and not the method used to achieve that outcome. Less experienced people should hear the importance of results and outcomes over having certain skills and abilities. Everybody brings different abilities to the team, and all are valuable. But when we spend all of our time emphasizing who has what skills and abilities, everybody gets distracted. So if the praise is heaped on an individual because they have a skill or a talent, the rest of the team will actually let go of the work and start to try to develop the skill we mentioned. It doesn't make sense, but it does make sense. We have to listen to ourselves and say, wait a minute, what did I emphasize? And also ask some of your more experienced people how stuff's coming across. They'll tell you. They're really good at telling you. And if you really do want to know how things are being received, ask some people that you trust and who trust you. Now, intuition and discernment are really important when you're deciding what to praise. You can't praise everything because it becomes just noise. So whenever doubts arise, the leader will want to ask some good questions and make adjustments to avoid canceling out our praise. So avoid casual statements that sound genuine the first time, but lose impact with overuse. Use less praise for people who are very experienced, but when you do praise these contributors, use specific examples in exactly how they made a huge difference. So space those out if somebody's really, really experienced. And for people who are inexperienced, people in new roles, people who are not sure, put them closer together and use more specific examples closer together and gather some details before you say anything. So the whole point is to praise the work and not the individual. It keeps us out of trouble that way. Some practice with praise will build your confidence when you want to motivate the team and let them know that you're aware of their contributions and how they're bringing about great outcomes. So praise is a powerful tool for the servant leader when we use it correctly. Thank you for listening today. I hope you learned something. I do want to remind you to ask more questions, especially if you're not sure what to praise, how to praise, and when to praise, to make sure it's effective. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Thanks so much.